I'm concerned a lot about the rate and pace and direction of the deployment of technology, and specifically its pursuit of taking the human out of the loop. You may have heard that term, taking the human or the man or the person out of the loop. That, to me, we can go way too far with that way too quick. I heard somebody who has a huge profile in tech, a huge thinker with billions of dollars behind him and his teams and his ideas, and he was asked, well, what happens, quote, post-instrumentation? After we deploy the Internet of Things or the Internet of Everything, what happens to work? And this tier one global thinker with all the things I described behind you, network capital, human capital, political capital, financial capital, this person literally said in front of 300 CEOs, if there is work, it'll be entertainment, because we'll have an entertainment economy. And for me, that individual and that concept jumped the shark in that moment. And so I'm not being shy. My introduction is about telling you all about what you need to know about me so you can understand why I'm grinding this axe. Because if we go and instrument the physical world to take the human out of the loop, we will destroy more work opportunities than we create if we're not intentional, if we're not thoughtful, and if we're not committed to it. Now, I'm not a Luddite, and I'm not a socialist. I'm a capitalist. I've built my business, I've built my home, I've built my family on technology, but I'm here to try and infect you with a little bit of my story. And it's this: if we can be intelligent and intentional and pursuing impact with the instrumentation of the physical world beyond what we've done with social and mobile to date, great things in social and mobile, but lots of unintended consequences and lots of limited value creation as well. If you, students here, researchers here, faculty members here, are brave enough to say, for example, no to a freemium-based ad revenue model that'll get you to scale real quick, you'll harvest all that data, you'll sell it in a black market or a gray market or an aftermarket that's opaque but still public, you might have the opportunity to do something much more special than what's done to date in social and mobile. Does anyone know family budget in the United States? 1955. What percentage of family income went toward food and what percentage went toward healthcare? Does anyone have any idea? Anyone want to try or hazard a guess? Anyone want to hazard a guess at what it is now? No one? And
20% for healthcare now.
It's nearly 25% for healthcare now. Anyone want to take a guess at what it was 50 years ago? 8. Let's try food. What was the average share of the family's budget for food on a weekly basis 50 years ago? Bueller, anyone? 22%. What is it now? 10%. Think about that for 1 minute. We've worked so hard on making food cheap that we have made everyone sick. Now, again, these are facts that are publicly available. I know I sound a bit like a rabble-rouser. I don't know it all, but these things are glaring to me. And it's one of the reasons why at INEX we're investing in smart ag projects. Not because, again, we're spotted owl, tongue-kissing, tree-hugging pinko liberals, but because I know in my heart that if we can get better food grown locally in a shorter supply chain to more kids, to more aged people, to more of the weaker folks in our societies, I'm guessing, yes, we might see the 10% go up again to 14 or 15 or 12, okay, but we might see the 25% creep back down too. Now, some of my best friends are physicians and they probably hate this, but hey, sorry, I'm okay with crimping your market a little bit to address some of these grand challenges. Now, what I just talked about doesn't sound like Nest, does it? Doesn't sound like Google or Facebook. It doesn't sound like Twitter or Instagram. It certainly doesn't sound like what you normally think of when you think of, I'm going to Tuck, going to get an MBA, and I'm going to go to McKinsey, Bain, BCG, going to go to Sogenti, going to go to Capgemini, going to go to Goldman, and I'm going to kill it. I don't think you have to choose between a grand challenge and killing it. Look, the Internet of Things doesn't necessarily, when you deploy it to traditional agriculture, whether it's crop production or husbandry, get you to a place in time where all of a sudden things are better. However, we do understand, don't we, pretty much that one of the highest carbon footprint and most damaging sources of protein on the planet is hoofed beef. And so maybe we could find, in addition, alternative forms of protein. And maybe those alternative forms of protein might be cost prohibitive unless and until you start to deploy Internet of Things type solutions to their cultivation or their production or their distribution. There are farmers all over the United States and probably soon all over the world where they're told, for your farm with this polygon and this crop, this is how much water you can take per acre, per inch. That's it. But what they don't do really is put a bunch of sensors in the ground to figure out how wet or moist the soil is at depth. And they have near zero sensing inside those freshwater wells. And they have almost zero sensing on the groundwater or the aquifer itself. It's all inference. Yeah, we've got all the satellite imagery for foliage cover, for canopy coverage, yes. And we've got satellite imagery that can tell us what the surface temperature and the surface moisture is. But what about when you go 6 or 9 or 12 or 15 or 24 inches deep? Yeah, we're taking all kinds of little devices and we're throwing them inside wells, we're throwing them inside pumps, we're throwing them inside systems and figuring out where they go. But it's all inference. You guys don't want inference. When y'all are having babies and y'all are making decisions about where you're going to live and where you're going to build and what you're going to invest in and where you're going to buy, you've had so much data delivered to you in social and mobile and in your world of commerce, in the consumer market, that you're going to want it in other places. And I'll argue this, for example. You're not going to want to buy a house whose primary source of potable water is a well without having a 10 or 12 or 15-year history about the water supply to that house. Yet today, if you're going to do it, guess what? Good luck. Because the wells in the United States are not instrumented. And when you go buy a house that's fed by groundwater, you have no idea how that well has performed. Do you want me to give you some names of some companies that are doing it today?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, sure. So he might get mad at me, but Jason Tachi from Farm Mobile. This is his second startup in Smart Ag. One key of his business model, the precedent is that the farmers need to have control of that data because it's operational intelligence, because it's intellectual capital, it's intellectual property. The farmer has to know more about his farm than anyone else in the world in order for that farmer to protect his or her interests. The point is that you have to think about what would benefit you, how you're going to be served, and you give those people access to the data under a set of rules and terms and conditions that you're comfortable with, and you get to participate economically. You might get money. You might get a discount, you might get access to more services, but the bottom line is it's not going to be, you get a free service, I get all the data.